Hello, your Uncle Spurt here, and today we're having a proper good squint at the fresh new ASUS ROG Xbox Ally X. Try saying that fast 10 times, especially after several pints of special brew. This handheld gaming console is a tasty bit of three-way action between ASUS, Xbox and Microsoft. And besides those new Xboxy elements, the big headline here is the performance, as the ROG Xbox Ally X is powered by the fresh new AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme with AMD Radeon graphics. Now, I've spent the last couple of weeks replacing sleep and quality family time with a good bit of gaming, and slowly realising my knackered old joints are better suited to a quick blast on Wordle. Here's my full ASUS ROG Xbox Ally X review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe, ding that old notifications bell. Cheers! Let's begin by skipping back in time a couple of weeks and actually unboxing this massive git. So you've got yourself one ROG Xbox Ally X. You got an adapter and a 3-pin plug, and a thrilling bit of quick start guides, etc. Now the ROG Xbox Ally X, that's like the 10th time I've already done this and I've only just got over the intro bit. The ROG Xbox Ally X weighs a sniff over 700 grams, so I certainly wouldn't describe it as lightweight, but it's not horrifically hefty either. It feels about the same as the original Steam Deck, which is still my go-to handheld gaming console. It's actually slightly heavier than that. And as you can see, they're a bit of a chunkster as well, again just like that original Steam Deck, so it does take up quite a bit of space in a backpack or whatever. But I really do like the design. First of all, that screen practically fills that middle section. The bezels don't look too chunky. And you got this kind of speckled finish either side, the obligatory RGB shenanigans naturally. And grips inspired by the Xbox controller. Apparently you've got that rough texture again so the thing doesn't slip out of your grasp even during the sweatiest of gaming sessions. And despite its heft, I found that the ROG Xbox Ally X was comfortable to game on for, a couple of hours at a time. I think the longest gaming session I had on it was about 2.5 hours, at which point I was starting to get a little bit of finger fatigue. And naturally, of course, you've got the usual wee flashes of ASUS ROG design. And similar durability to the original ROG Ally handheld console, so you've got a Gorilla Glass Victus screen with a Gorilla Glass DXC coating slathered on top to slightly help reduce glare and reflections, while also hardening it even further. And I did just chuck the ROG Xbox Ally X into a backpack completely loose with a whole bunch of other stuff, laptops, etc., to see if it would mark up at all, and touch wood, absolutely fine still. Now, all of this gaming console's ports are slapped on the top end. There's bugger all on the bottom. From left to right, you've got yourself a Thunderbolt 4 port with DisplayPort 2.1 support. Next to that, you've got a regular Type-C USB 3.2 port, again with DisplayPort 2.1. Then after the volume rocker, you've got yourself a UHS 2 micro SD memory card reader, got your headphone jack, and then of course it's the power button with a built-in fingerprint sensor. And that fingerprint sensor has been absolutely fantastic. Usually just a quick tap of that and you're straight in. And the Xbox Ally X loads up reasonably nippily as well. Within just 12 seconds of hitting that fingerprint sensor, you're already loading up into Windows. It does take a wee bit longer for the likes of the ROG Armory crate and everything to load as well though, but basically just over 20 seconds, you're ready to start gaming. So yes, the ROG Xbox Ally X is running full Windows, but when you do boot it up, by default you're entered straight into the Xbox full screen experience. And specifically ASUS's ROG Armory crate. And this is pretty decent, gives you fast access to all of your games. You can set up favorites if you want to. I've only installed a small selection, so I didn't bother. With the tap of the other trigger, you're straight into your different gaming platforms as well. So as you can see there, the Xbox apps, Steam, Epic Games, and of course everyone's favorite Battle.net, which I've been using for Diablo. So for instance, you can skip straight into that familiar Xbox UI at any point, which gives you fast access to the likes of Game Pass. You've got your cloud gaming on here as well. And you can skip between your various apps just as you would do on the likes of Android. And if you need the full Windows experience for tinkering in the background or whatever, just tap Windows Desktop and you're straight into that. Shouldn't need to do that too often though, because Armory Crate includes pretty much everything you need to customize and set up this bad boy. So for instance, if you tap your way into Lighten, you can of course set up the RGB shenanigans, try various different modes, and you can also fully calibrate those controls if you need to. An Armory crate can be a wee bit bulky on occasion. Sometimes, for instance, it'll just stop responding to the actual buttons and thumbsticks, although the touch controls will still work absolutely fine. But this is still pre-release, so I'm not surprised. It's just a little, a couple of little teething issues here and there. And of course, there's been a lot of lovely, hot online debate about good old Game Pass this past couple of weeks. Obviously, Microsoft has changed the subscription tiers, introduced Ultimate, which costs, I believe, $30 or 20 quid a month. This gives you all the day one access to fresh new titles, etc. Honestly, I think most people will probably be happy with one of the lower tiers, especially if you just want to try out different games that you wouldn't have otherwise bothered with. Good variety of stuff on there and everything. I'm not going to bang on about Game Pass in this video, just going to concentrate on the hardware. Now, at any point while you are gaming, don't worry if you need to tweak any of the settings on the ROG Xbox Ally X, because you can just tap the Armory crate button here, and this brings up all the main bollocks that you might want to piddle about with. So for instance, you can flick between the various different gaming modes, you can map those controls on the fly or swap between different profiles. You can knock down that display resolution and then turn on the likes of Radeon Super Resolution, although RSR usually requires a game restart to actually kick into action. And you can also helpfully tweak the screen brightness as well. You do have full auto brightness on this, but occasionally you'll just want to bump it up a wee bit or lower it if you are playing in the dark. And as well as the Armory Crate command center, you can also fast access all of your Xbox UI shenanigans to bring up an on-screen keyboard, see if any of your mates are online, record the action, etc. And you can also immediately jump straight into the Xbox UI stuff at any point in a game just by tapping that Xbox key. Now, the ROG Xbox Ally X sports a 7-inch IPS display similar to the original ROG Ally handheld gaming console. It's a full HD resolution panel, so pleasingly crisp, and as I mentioned before, you've got visual boosters on board like Radeon Super Resolution, so you can run a game at 720p or 900p, and the Ally X will automatically upscale those visuals to close to 1080p. But apparently poor old RSR may be made redundant in early 2026, because in the new year ASUS reckons it's adding a feature called Automatic Super Resolution, ASA, which can immediately boost the resolution of any indie titles, older titles, anything low res, so it's running at practically full HD. And yeah, kind of a shame it's not an OLED panel, because the contrast's not quite as good, although as with the Switch 2 panel, it is a quality IPS. Reasonably punchy colors and everything, maxes out at 120Hz refresh, and of course you've got the usual variable refresh rate support as well. As for the brightness, well, ASUS reckons this maxes out at around 500 nits. However, if you are trying to play a bit of Diablo 4 or Indiana Jones or something, you find yourself in a murky pit or cave, well, basically good bloody luck seeing anything that's going on. If I was playing outdoors on a reasonably bright day, or even near a window with a bit of sun coming in, I really struggled to see what was happening at times. I spent an embarrassing amount of time charging head first into walls like I was completely shit-faced, even when I was only partially shit-faced. But the ROG Xbox Ally X boasts a stereo speaker setup. You've got a pair of front-firing blasters which absolutely assault your face with audio. They are proper beefcakes. Here's just a brief sample. Bit of fisticuffs going on. I better run away before I die. Oh crap. But yeah, I didn't actually bother with headphones most of the time, as those speakers are proper full-on loud. They pump out well-balanced sound with respectable bass. You got a decent little stereo experience out of them as well. It's only if you really want to immerse yourself in your game, especially if you're playing online, bit of online deathmatch or something like that. Obviously, the headphones will come in handy. And as for the controls themselves, well, I'm hardly an esports gamer myself, but absolutely bugger all complaints. Really, you've got a couple of Hall effect triggers, you've got some assignable grip buttons. I found the thumbsticks perfectly responsive, although you can calibrate them if needed. And those face buttons, I did find that one or two of them did stick a little bit when I first started playing with the ROG Xbox Ally X, but they seem to have loosened up nicely now. But of course the big whoop here is the performance, because this handheld gaming console is powered by AMD's Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme, and that is backed by a generous 24 gigs of DDR5X 8000 RAM. And if you yank out that old command center, you'll see you've got three main gaming modes. You've got Silent, which runs at 13 watts, Performance at 17 watts, and a 25 watt turbo mode. Although I'll tell you what, even in the most basic 13 watt silent mode, running on battery power alone, the Xbox Ally X is actually still a bit of a beefcake. It's still served up a beautifully smooth frame rate in games like Diablo 4, running at Full HD resolution on the sort of default medium settings. And even when I boosted it up to the ultra graphics, Diablo 4 still ran at around 30 to 40 frames per second, even in super busy outdoor areas. Definitely impressive enough, although for a smoother experience I would certainly recommend boosting up to that 17-watt performance mode, at which point Diablo 4 averaged at 60 to 70 frames per second, again on those ultra graphic settings, with only the very occasional stumble. I saw maybe a couple of jerky moments every sort of hour or so that I played. As for Tony Hawk's, well, again running at Full HD resolution on the high graphic settings in that 17-watt performance mode, I got to enjoy every smash, tumble and horrific face plant at a reasonably smooth frame rate too. It's generally hovered in the high 30s and low 40s most of the time. But a quarter of a century has certainly done nothing to improve my performances in that particular bloody game. Indiana Jones proved a bit more of a test, of course, that running at Full HD resolution in the high graphic settings on the 17-watt performance mode generally returned a performance of around sort of 20 to 30 frames per second, again with the occasional wee dip into the high teens. But to really test out that bicep flex and willy wave and mega thrust power of the Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme, you will of course want to plug in the ROG Xbox Ally X, at which point you'll automatically swap to that turbo mode, but not just the regular 25-watt turbo mode. Oh no, this is the proper full-on 35-watt turbo mode, don't you know? And this did again slightly bump up the general performance, though it didn't have a huge impact, have to say. Like Diablo 4 with ultra graphics settings in the turbo mode, still mostly stuck around the 70 frames per second mark, occasionally rising to hit 80 or even 90 frames per second in those rare moments that you're not causing huge groups of angry gribblies to explode into meaty gibs. I kept Indiana Jones at the same settings as well and noticed again a slight improvement, but it's still maxed out around the 35 frames per second level. But certainly saw more stable performance out of Tony Hawk's, which pretty much stuck to 60 frames per second the entire time I was gaming. And then running back on battery power, I also tried dropping the resolution of that display to 720p and switching on the AMD Radeon Super Resolution feature. And on performance mode, Diablo, once again running with ultra graphics, averaged around 70 to 90 frames per second, so definitely a bit of a boost there. Indiana Jones on the high graphics settings again had a slight impact again, mostly running at 35 to 40 frames per second. Now the ROG Xbox Ally X sports what they term a zero gravity thermal system for some reason. Basically features a pair of fans built in there to help keep that hot air moving along, as well as the usual graphene shenanigans, etc. And when this console is plugged in with turbo mode active, this is as loud as those fans actually get. As you can hear, not too loud at all, certainly compared with some consoles that I've tested out. Just a little bit of white noise if anything, and certainly if you've got the speakers turned right up, blasting a good bit of music or whatever, that classic soundtrack on the go in Tony Hawk, well, no worries at all, they'll be drowned right out. And if you actually unplug the Xbox Ally X, drop back down into the likes of silent or performance mode even, you'll find those fans are generally whisper quiet. This is in performance mode right now. And those vents are of course positioned at the top of the console and around the back, so directed away from your hands and your face and all of your sensitive bits. So not once when I was gaming on this thing, even with it plugged in, did I feel it getting particularly toasty. And the ROG Xbox Ally X supports Wi-Fi 6E, there's no Wi-Fi 7 support in this thing, but I found that massive downloads happen really quickly in cloud gaming, not a problem, as long as your Wi-Fi doesn't suck, obviously. And this past fortnight, I've only had one issue with the internet connection. That was actually just yesterday when I was getting stuck into a proper good bit of Diablo 4 again. I was literally just about to grab a vital quest item that I'd spent 20 minutes battling my way through a long-ass dungeon to grab, and then of course naturally I lost my connection to Battle.net for absolutely sod all reason and got ejected from the friggin' dungeon. At which point I may well have cracked open a bottle of Belgian extra strength beer and stress ate my way through an entire bag of Haribo Star Mix. The first world problems of the highest order. And I have bugger all clue why the ROG Xbox Ally X suddenly dropped internet connection like that, because other devices I had connected to my Wi-Fi at the time, like my smartphone, streaming music, absolutely fine. Hopefully just a one-off, but we'll see. I gotta say, just as impressive as the performance on the ROG Xbox Ally X, if not more impressive, is the battery life. You've got an 80 watt hour battery stuffed in here. I did lots of battery testing, so for instance Diablo running on performance mode at 17 watts. I typically enjoyed between 3 to 3.5 hours of gaming good times on a full charge, depending on the settings used. And if I actually dropped the Xbox Ally X down into the silent mode at 13 watts, I got closer to 4 hours of action from a full charge. Now, as for Indiana Jones running on those high graphics settings in the 17 watt performance mode, again the Xbox Ally X survived for around 3 full hours before it finally needed plugging back in. Now compare that with the original ROG Ally gaming handheld, which in performance mode barely scraped through a full hour of gaming action on a 100% charge. That is quite the improvement. It certainly outperforms the Steam Deck and quite a lot of other gaming handhelds that I've tested recently. Even the Nintendo Switch 2 struggles to make it through 3 hours unless you're just playing the most basic indie titles. Now apparently in 2026 the ROG Xbox Ally X will be boosted with even more amazing features, so already talked about automatic super resolution, ASA, but apparently it'll also be upgraded with a automatic highlights recorder, which can apparently just record any great bits of gaming skill that you happen to show off, so you can then share it with the rest of the world. In my case, Tony Hawk's will be reduced to about half a second. Now, apparently you'll also enjoy an enhanced docking experience, FNAF, and there'll be some sort of save game sync tool as well, which can warn you the last time you saved your game or the game was automatically saved on your behalf as you're about to quit out, just to make sure you don't accidentally erase a whole bunch of progress. So hopefully the already pretty bloody lush ROG Xbox Ally X will get even lusher in the coming months. And that in a tasty wee nutshell, my lovelies, is my full final frank review of this bad boy right here. And I've got to say, with the excellent performance and the fantastic battery life, this thing has completely supplanted all other gaming handheld consoles as my go-to effort when I'm slumped on the sofa, enjoying my 15 minutes of respite at the end of another long day of shooting and editing all this tech bollocks. But what do you reckon of the ASUS ROG Xbox Ally X? Be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everybody, love you!